Okay, Sean Strickland versus Dricus Du Plessis. We're going to talk about that fight. We're going to talk about Sean Strickland post this weekend and how I think he might be the next Nate Diaz. We're going to talk about the scoring and we might talk about the rest of the card depending on how long this video actually turns out. Now, straight away, the amount of people out there that are screaming robbery is insane. How can it be a robbery if it is so close? Everyone everywhere seems to be split right down the middle about how this fight turned out. So I don't understand how it can be a robbery. A robbery is when there is a clear winner, and to me there was no clear winner here. There are so many people saying that Sean Strickland could have won round 2 or could have won round 3. And if you don't know clearly which one of those rounds that he actually won, that means that's a swing decision. It can go either way. And this was a damn close fight, guys. Now, Personally, I gave it to Dricus Du Plessis watching it live, but I gave it to him by just a bee's dick. It was a tiny amount. And I think right now we just need to slow down and actually talk about how you score an MMA fight when you're watching it live. Because there are so many content creators, there are so many people that I am seeing online that are giving their opinion on how the fight should have turned out and then saying, you know, I have to go back and watch it. I have to go back and watch it before they pick a side. And that is the wrong way to score an MMA fight. You know, I know that the Weasel's going to come out and he's going to give his breakdown of who really won. And that's really good to know, you know, after the fact as we go forward and start to look at the rest of the division, which is something that I want to talk about as well. But when you're there and you're saying, this is who I think won the fight, you do not get the advantage or the privilege of hindsight or the stats, okay? The sport works with 3 judges sitting in one position on the side of the cage and they are watching the fight without any stats. And if you don't like it, go watch another sport because that is how these fights are scored. The fights and the rounds were razor close. And I know when you go back and look at the score numbers and the stats, yes, Strickland is landing more shots, but when you're watching it live, you're looking at which shots have the heavier impact. And when the round is over, you have to hand in your scorecard then and there. The judges have to hand in their scorecard then and there at the end of the round. Or they have to write down their score for the end of the round then and there. So when round 3 starts, for example, round 2 is done and written down. You can't go back and change that. It is what it is. So what I'm saying is when you're scoring rounds, you have to watch the fight live, decide who won that round within the minute between the rounds, and then that's it, move on. There's no going back and looking at the stats. There's no getting to go back and re-watch the rounds. That's done now. The round is scored, and then you get to the end of the fight, and it happens. It's a split decision. It could have gone either way. That's why the whole MMA community is sort of cut down the middle on this, and it should be cut down the middle. It was a damn close fight. I think Dricus won it. I'm with the judges on this one. Having said that, if they had turned around and said that Sean Strickland won it, I'd be fine with that too. I'd be absolutely fine with that. It was that close. The takedowns. Usually takedowns do not count for much. When you go ahead and read the criteria of the judging, it's damage-based scoring. The first thing that you're meant to judge is the stand-up striking and the damage caused by it. Now, Sean Strickland got a cut, which looks like it's accumulating damage, but that's all it is. It's visual damage-based scoring. So if someone has a cut and it's pissing blood all over their face, that is going to add up on the scorecards. Then if the damage-based scoring, if the striking looks dead even, then you go down and look at the takedowns. You know, I said takedowns don't usually count for much. And when someone is just spamming takedowns for a round and wet blanketing and not doing any damage, and then towards the end of the round, one guy finally scrambles back up and lands a few good shots, you should give it to the guy that landed a few good shots. But in this case, both men were going strike for strike, strike for strike, strike for strike. And when Dricus Du Plessis goes and gets a takedown and just holds Sean down for a few seconds towards the end of the round, because the striking is so close, then you go and look at the next thing on the criteria list, which is the takedowns and control time. So if the first criteria is drawn and dead even, and again, that's only drawn and dead even visually from one side of the cage, not where we get to see it from the bird's eye view with different camera angles and stats popping up on the screen. It's just one person on the side of the cage looking at the fight. Oh yeah, that looks pretty even. Oh, Dricus got the takedown. Well, then you go to the second criteria. When you start to add all that up and look at it the way that the judges are looking at it, it makes total sense why they picked Dricus Du Plessis. Absolutely total sense why they picked Dricus. And all of this talk of I need to go back and watch the fight, and I will be watching the fight again today. Like, I need to go back and watch the fight. We all need to go back and watch that fight. But Dricus Du Plessis won that fight. He won that fight by just the smallest of margins. It is what it is, guys. And that sucks because this gets on to the next thing that I wanted to talk about. Sean Strickland is a superstar. I know some people are saying he was on the cusp of superstar. No. Sean Strickland is a goddamn superstar in the UFC. He is the next Nate Diaz. What do I mean by that? I mean, he is the next character that can go in and lose a fight and can win a fight, right? Nate Diaz always had this thing where, and he still does have it to this day, where even if he loses, the Diaz army are there for him because he is so hardcore and because he was so close to winning all those fights. I know, God, Nate Diaz, Jesus. He has great moments in fights that the Diaz army just blindly love. He is so connected to his audience and to just the blue collar audience out there that got MMA to where it is. The audience of people who are sick of all of the crap that we see in the media, everything that Sean Strickland goes up there and stands for. They are the people that fell in love with the violence of cage fighting and got it on Spike TV and then got it on pay-per-view and then got it on Fox Sports. So they are the core audience of MMA fans, that mindset of the Diaz army. And Sean Strickland is their people. And the way that Sean captures every single crowd that he goes to is so impressive. When he comes to Australia, we all cheer for him. When he goes to Canada, everybody cheers for him. Sean Strickland is like the man's man, common man. He is that silent majority that you hear talked about so much. You know, Sports Illustrated closed down this week, which is a long time running corporate magazine, and Luke Thomas, an MMA Talking Ahead, was talking about how he didn't understand how this could happen to like such a magazine. And the fact that they don't understand why these corporate clean-cut organizations like Disney and like Sports Illustrated keep losing money, and these voices, these independent voices, say like the MMA guru, like Sean Strickland, keep getting more and more popular, shows the absolute disconnect between corporate media and just normal people that want to watch normal sports take place. And Sean Strickland is that guy. And having this loss so close in a fight that he could have won, and how loudly the fans are screaming robbery, is going to propel him even further up that next echelon of stardom. He is going to be a superstar. He is going to be one of those guys that there are going to be Sean Strickland flags, Sean Strickland t-shirts. They're going to be screaming for him no matter what, wherever he goes. And the UFC loves money. I don't think they can put him back in the Apex after this. I know that he says some things on the microphone that the sponsors are going to hate, but the people are going to love it and the people are going to buy tickets. And Dana White is going to see that. And I can absolutely see Sean Strickland being put as the feature fight on a pay-per-view, where he can go to the press conference, have a couple of lines, but the UFC can sort of manage it. You know, they managed it this weekend when all the heat was on him, when all the eyes were on him. The UFC survived and got through it this weekend. And I don't see them putting that kind of star power and that kind of money making back into the UFC Apex. That's just not what they do. Sean Strickland is the next Nate Diaz, George Masvidal, Conor McGregor, where he can go forward, lose fights, and keep winning. He is a money fight now, because just look at how many people are saying that he's robbed. He gets so many eyes on him because you just never know what he's going to say next. And he's going to be put in a damn close fight. Even the fights that he loses are damn close. And people love to go ahead and argue about how he should have won that, just like the Cannonier fight. On the technical side of the fight, Sean Strickland's Philly style boxing, the jab, 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 if he is getting pressured against, if someone keeps coming forward at him and starts to crowd him a little bit, then he goes strike for strike so much with his opponents that the judges have to look at the one who's aggressing the fight and pushing forward, which naturally gives them the win. which is why so many Sean Strickland fans are like, look at his output. Look at how well he's doing. Yeah, but visually, Sean's on the back foot and the person's attacking, and they seem to be going strike for strike. So then you have to start looking at that second criteria. It's just the way that MMA judging works. We covered that early in the video. I mean, it's Sean Strickland's style. If you're a counter puncher like Israel Adesanya, Sean Strickland's style is going to be perfect to beat that. But if you're someone that doesn't mind copping 2 black eyes like Dricus Du Plessis and charging forward, Sean Strickland's style is going to look bad on the eyes of the judges. What is next for Dricus Du Plessis? I see so many people saying it's Israel Adesanya next. Khamzat Chimaev has gone and spoken up. Listen, if it is going to be either Israel or Khamzat Chimaev, it can't be Khamzat Chimaev because he has not earned a title shot. He needs to get a win over someone in this division. This division right now is just, it's too messy. There's too much play here. And I mean, I don't want to see Khamzat as a champion, to be honest. The dude has gone from one of the most active fighters ever to one of the most inactive fighters ever. Now, whether or not that's the UFC poorly managing him, whether or not that's his own illnesses coming up, whether or not it's his friendship with Kadyrov and it makes it hard for him to get visas, that's not the kind of champion that I want to have. I want to have a kind of champion like Israel Adesanya who stays incredibly active, like Sean Strickland who stays incredibly active. That's what I want to see. So to me personally, Khamzat is out. As a UFC fan and someone who's just going to sit back, watch and enjoy this, I don't care if it's Israel Adesanya. I think that's fine. I will watch that fight just because of how dramatic and how much play there's going to be. I think that's just going to be a fun weekend of build-ups and banter between the two of them. But personally, I hate Israel Adesanya so much. He is such a cringe lord. Even now, like the first tweet that he went ahead and put out where it's like, this is my story. This was destined in history. Jesus, shut up, man. Shut up. God, he's horrible. He's just so hard to watch. And quite frankly, I don't think he deserves another title shot. He's not dominant. He wasn't a dominant champion. He was skidding by as a champion on like decision wins. He lost his belt, won it back. So in his new run as champion, he was 1 fight in. To me, Israel Adesanya was one of those guys that was at the top of the division for ages. Robert Whittaker is one of those guys that was at the top of the division for ages. I know Robbie's got a fight booked in with Paulo Costa, but do you think Paulo Costa is actually going to rock up for that fight? I don't. To me, if this was the PFL and I was in charge of things, I would instantly rebook Sean Strickland versus Dricus Du Plessis because of how close it was and because the contenders below them, it's so messy over who's next. I would have either Israel Adesanya versus Khamzat Chimaev for a #1 contender spot, or I would have Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker 3 for a #1 contender spot. That is how I would sort that division out, because to just give Izzy another title shot because he's the face of 2 video games, I see what you're doing, UFC. I see what you're doing. He doesn't deserve it, okay? I know you guys think he's a star. He's not. Sean Strickland is a superstar. Give him another pay-per-view. The rematch between Sean Strickland and Dricus Du Plessis would sell so many pay-per-views. So many people would be interested in that. So many people. And then you could set up these contender fights underneath it on the same pay-per-view. It just lines up perfectly for me. That's how I would do it, but I get it. I get it. Anyway, they are my thoughts right after the fight. I too have to go back and watch it. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. When you were watching it live, not going back and consuming all the media afterwards, when you finished that fight, before Bruce was about to call out a name, who did you think won that fight and why? Put that down there in the comments. And what do you think should be next for Dricus Du Plessis? Should it be a rematch with Sean Strickland? Should it be Israel Adesanya? Do you not really care? Are you a Khamzat Chimaev fan? If so, why? Leave all that down there in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That means so much to small creators like myself. And of course, I'll see you all in the next one.